We're excited to be joined on this episode of the Digital Insight podcast by April Mullen, Director of Brand and Content Marketing at SparkPost. I mean, the world's largest commercial sender of email, delivering almost 40% of commercial emails, and that's up to 5 trillion sends annually, which is quite staggering. Well, welcome, April.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, to begin, can you tell us a little bit about your role at SparkPost and how your past experiences working in email for brands, agencies, and across MarTech is supporting you in the role today?
Yeah, it really, producing brand or creating a brand and also content, you have to be able to connect with the buyer. And the good thing is I've been in their shoes, especially enterprise sender. I used to work for a very large financial services firm in the US and ran a global team there. And so it was, experiences there and on the agency side, and also working with a lot of clients for different MarTech companies, specifically in email, that really helped me to understand what the problems are in email and what kind of challenges email marketers are facing, especially at large enterprise companies. So it really helped me to kind of cut through the noise of a lot of content people come into a company and they may not be subject matter experts. And so they have to do research, and not to say that we don't do research, but, they're kind of starting from scratch and figuring out what it is that the buyer needs. But I don't have that. And actually I have a team of people that are pretty experienced in email as well. So we're able to hit the mark pretty quickly, which helps us move faster, and produce content that enterprise people seem to be liking it.
And I think for those then that perhaps that don't know, because you're hitting 40% of commercial email, that's a huge amount. It's kind of like the equivalent of an ERP that touches every transaction that we make. So for those that don't know, could you tell us a little bit about the genesis of the company and some of the intel that it delivers to drive optimal performance from email?
Yeah, so SparkPost started off as being the infrastructure, if you will, of email sending. And so we actually support a lot of that volume is through supporting marketing clouds that a lot of listeners may know and love. And so we're kind of like the pipeline. Once somebody is in an interface of a marketing cloud and hitting send, the infrastructure that we offer allows them to send that. Now, we also have a lot of customers that send directly through us. They just have APIs set up, and then they're able to use those APIs to communicate with our sending infrastructure and sending emails. But in recent years, we've actually moved into a space of doing more than just the sending. So we acquired an email deliverability and analytics company called eDataSource. And so now we have deep deliverability analytics. 20% of emails go to the spam folder. And so that's like, you think about 40% of the world's commercial email. We see that. And so we wanted to have analytics to be able to show senders, hey, 20% of your emails may not be making it. Now our customers have higher deliverability. We optimize on the delivery side, but to be able to give them the intelligence to show them why and what types of sends might not be making it to the inbox. And then we have a services team that helps them to improve their sending and their strategies to be able to hit the inbox. We also have some competitive intelligence tools that came through that eDataSource acquisition, where you can see a lot of the emails that large commercial senders are sending, and you can compare your own brand to what's going on with your major competitors. And that is through a permission-based panel that we offer. And then lastly, we, in the last year, acquired a company called Taxi for Email, and it actually helps with creative production workflow. So you can build an email design system and you can get emails out the door much faster. You can collaborate with a lot of people across different teams, geographies, languages, etc. Enterprise email senders, their email process is really hard. And so we've aimed to make that easier. And we ourselves also got acquired in the last year by a company called MessageBird out of Amsterdam. They're an omni-channel communications platform, and they aim to make communicating with businesses as easy as communicating with your friends. And so we're really excited to see where that takes us next. But we love being a part of the MessageBird team.
And You've touched on it there, but can you perhaps tell us a little bit more about how SparkPost helps organisations such as Airbnb and PayPal perform better in the inbox through what I've seen, some of the deliverables around planning, execution, and optimization?
Yeah, so you touched on it. It's, planning, executing, optimizing the full email production, I guess the full flywheel or life cycle of planning for an email, getting it out the door, and then optimizing it going forward. So again, those products I talked about, the competitive intelligence helps with the planning. We do execution either directly through our platform, or you might be sending through one of our customers, and we help optimize the delivery of those communications. And then we have all these analytics that help. And then, of course, the email production piece at the beginning to help you with the workflow, to get a really complex email process simplified from days to hours. But we also, I think a big part of how we help our enterprise customers that they tell us over and over again is one of the reasons why they like working with us is there's so many nuances to email. You'll often hear people say it depends. Like it's almost kind of a joke in the industry when people are like, well, what should I do about this? And it's like, well, it depends. And that's where we have a lot of experts on the team that can answer those it depends questions. Well, it depends because and then they can get more specific to the customer because they work closely with them day in and day out, and they can add that really unique nuance that's needed, that lens, to be really specific to our customers. So yeah, once we get a customer, our retention rate is really high. They really like working with us because we enable them with very specific strategies that can help them make it to the inbox and improve a lot of different aspects of their email program.
So, April, why is it important for businesses to keep up to date with the latest trends in email marketing?
So believe it or not, email, even though it's this old channel, there are always changes happening for it. And I would say even within the last year, the changes have been huge. We've had iOS 15, we've had Hide My Email, and then unrelated things, but also impact email of third-party cookies going away. So keeping abreast of the changes is a must for marketers that want to ensure their brand rises above the competition. Failing to adhere to new practices, they can damage brand trust and reputation. You could lose subscribers, and now is not the time to be losing subscribers more than ever because you can't easily go and reacquire new ones with what's happening in third-party cookies. So we're really encouraging brands to harness sophisticated email content, which can lead to more engagement, which means better deliverability so that, 20% of emails that never make it to the inbox, let's try to make that more like 10%. Think about how many more subscribers that could be receiving your content and then converting. And also, I think email plays a role in this whole new push for community. If you're on a brand's email list, you, as a company, you should be thinking about that person being a part of your community, whether they're engaging with you on social or other parts of your brand. Like email is a part of the community, which is really popular right now because companies are realizing they need to invest in more personal relationships with their customers. So I'd love to see more companies do things like allow for customers to reply to their emails. Like that could be a great starting point, making email a bi-directional channel. A lot of brands don't allow you to reply. So like start letting people reply to your emails and engage with them actively. I think those are going to be some things that are going to be pretty important. So we're always evangelizing for people to keep up with the trends because things are always changing, and email continues to be at the forefront of all of that.
But when we're perhaps looking at some of those key trends for 2022, what has SparkPost identified? And I know there's 3 specific areas you'd like to talk to us about.
Yeah, there are 3 areas that we think are pretty important. And so design and accessibility is huge. We're seeing a lot of companies starting to move to dark mode, not just with email, but like any sort of digital interface. We're seeing the implementation of more emojis and GIFs to add that additional kind of emotion. Digital is a really challenging channel to convey emotion. And so, we're seeing more emojis and GIFs even among kind of serious businesses. And so we're looking at how marketers can ensure these new features are used in the right way, so that it doesn't come across as weird. And then, of course, accessibility. We know that, the World Health Organization states that 15% of the world is plagued with some sort of disability. And so if your emails aren't accessible, that's quite a few people probably in your database receiving your emails that may not be able to engage with them. So we're definitely talking a lot about accessibility. The next one is just around content creation. Things that have basically since the beginning of email have been something that people have been interested in. What sort of content is going to be engaging and interesting? How can I employ personalization, especially if I have limited time and resources as a marketer? And so, we try to give best practices tips on that to help them resonate with the end subscriber. And then email process. I mentioned earlier that enterprise email production is super hard. I documented the process through interviewing different customers, and we found that on average, there were anywhere from 23 to 30 steps and 7 to 10 people involved in the process. And you wouldn't think that was the case. It seems like everyone knows email, but you know it from the perspective like sending it from your work email or your personal email, but actual mass email is very difficult. So we look at ways that our tools can help simplify that process while also maintaining some of the creativity that teams really want.
And I know that in our coming up in the rearview mirror and already here are big challenges that are going to stress marketers out when it comes to email. But how can SparkPost help marketers navigate transformational updates such as iOS 15's mail privacy protection and hide my email? Just picking on one there.
Yeah. So, there have been some huge changes in the email space. Apple, announcing these two really big initiatives. They put privacy at the forefront. And so, we are looking at the changes happening in privacy is not just being something driven by governments, but trying to stay ahead of what the tech companies are doing, because the tech companies are really leaning into this, especially here in the US. Our government isn't really putting as much regulation in place as companies have seen in Europe and other parts of the world. And so tech companies are actually starting to lean into this and control it. And so we're talking about best practices here as much as possible. So some we're actually still grappling with in real time, and we're very transparent about that. So for example, with Apple Mail privacy protection, we know that opens are inflated. So could be up to 50% of the opens that you're seeing on your emails are not actually humans opening your emails. And so we're currently working through some strategies on how do we recommend marketers move forward from that. We don't exactly have an answer yet, but what we are doing currently is informing customers of what's happening. We've given them the analytics and the reporting to tell them these are your real opens versus these are your fake opens. And now we're moving into the phase of, okay, Apple Mail privacy protection is here. So how do you then change your strategy based on that? I guess we have done some strategy up to this point. One has been, don't just rely on email opens and I don't think any enterprise company out there is relying purely on email opens for their intelligence. But I think as an industry, we have leaned on it pretty heavily. And so we're encouraging our customers in the industry at large to look at deeper metrics in the conversion funnel, such as clicks. And then what are those people doing once they leave your email? What are they doing on your website? What are they doing? Are they in your loyalty program? I think we've maybe over relied on channel specific reporting when we really should be looking at what a customer is doing overall. And I think that things like iOS 15 email privacy protection, those are the same thing, and then hide my email are actually forcing us to actually look at people as people at the customer level and not be so overly reliant on channel specific metrics.
And allied to that, and looking at other challenges, and though it may have been postponed, what will the ultimate death of third party cookies in 2023 mean for marketers? And what advice do you have there?
Yeah, so I think that there has been an over reliance on acquiring audiences, sell to those audiences, not enough focus on retention. I mentioned that email and CRM has not gotten the budget that it has long needed. So I think there is a change in that we are seeing budgets increase in CRM and email. And so what I think will happen in the future is that this addiction that we've had to just spending, because some companies just have a lot of capital, and they can just keep spending to reacquire the same customers over and over. I think that addiction to reacquiring the same people is actually going away, because obviously we're not going to be able to do that as easily as we have in the past. And so I think there will be a much stronger focus on retention, that once you get a customer in your database, that is a super valuable like point in the customer's life cycle with your brand. And then there is an actual concerted effort and deep strategy in doing everything we can to try to retain them in ways that are very customer focused, not company focused. So I'm even seeing companies talking about things like, not just on the marketing side, but looking at their overall customer experience. If a customer is super valuable to you, maybe they have a direct line to a support resource. Different perks that unlock for customers. I think loyalty programs are even being reimagined. It's not just points based on things that you've done in the transactions that you've done in the past, but it's actually like you get a little bit of you get some points and a high five for like referring your friends and things like that. So we're seeing a lot of like innovation happening in loyalty even, which is super tied with email. So I think we're going to see a lot of change on kind of going from short-term marketing to more long game marketing and retention. So I'm pretty excited about that, because I've long wished we were doing that. But I think that some of these changes in the landscape with the Google and removing third-party cookies, actually Apple and Mozilla have already removed those. People can opt out of being tracked, and so I'm excited to see where we go, because I think retention is going to be super important, and email will go along with that.
And finally, what other key advice would you have for digital marketers on succeeding in a new world of privacy-first marketing, as we mentioned, where the rise of government regulations like GDPR, CCPA, the depreciation of app tracking data, then there are many other challenges out there?
Yeah, my advice would be think about the long game. It's not about that they transacted in this channel or did this thing. And like, I would love to see marketing departments reorganize around where the customer is in their life cycle with a brand. Because I think that would then help us to focus more on customers instead of channels. Channels are great, and I love email. Email is my favorite channel, and it's often like the email address itself is often like a key identifier, and it really kind of stitches a lot of things together. And also, once you get that email address, you're starting to communicate with a known person at that point. That's like a huge point in the life cycle of knowing who somebody is, and then being able to communicate with them on a one-on-one level. But I would love to see marketing teams realign around the life cycle, and then looking at ways that they can use their data in really meaningful ways. I think that's been the biggest challenge for a lot of companies, is that collecting zero and first party data is really hard. It takes a strategy. You have to often move data from, you might have it in a database, but then you have to be able to use it across all these different systems. Well, now is the time to think about what your data strategy is going to be for first and zero and first party data, and how you're going to use that for channels like email and SMS and push and whatever else you have that could use that data. Get your data strategy in order and invest in making sure that data is going to be usable.
Well, thanks very much, April, and it's certainly a brave new world that companies need to be prepared for. So thanks for joining us today, and you can learn more about SparkPost on our Interface website and at sparkpost.com.